If we would draw an imaginary timeline, somewhere on that timeline we would have a presence like now, and everything to the left of that line we can consider facts. This is something happened in the past. And those facts we call events, and some of those events could be incidents already happened. To the right side of now, we have future. We don't know what will happen in future, and we can be sure that both positive and negative events will happen in the future. And sometimes we can even name scenarios of what can happen, and sometimes we cannot name the scenario. So if we can name them, we call that known unknowns. Yes, because we know scenarios, but we don't know if that will happen or not in the future. So positive known unknowns we called opportunities. Negative known unknowns we call risks. And there are parts in the future we cannot predict, and we call that part unknown unknowns. A good example is COVID-19 pandemic. No one could think of that scale of, incident, to say so, happening worldwide before it happened. But we could predict consequences, not causes, but consequences. And consequences are very basic ones, because people cannot access offices. People need to work remotely, work from home, and so on. So this is the area of business continuity management, disaster recovery, and in that area you would typically have only a few scenarios you need to prepare for. So one could be that you cannot access premises, you cannot access office building. It doesn't matter for why, for what reason you cannot access it, but the reaction or plan how you react to the situation is more or less the same, independent of the cause of the situation. So it could be fire, it could be pandemia, it could be loss of power supply, whatever. If you cannot use office, what are your actions? And your actions are quite obvious, as we all of us went through during this pandemic. We work from home, we work from remote locations. The plan is more or less the same. Then you should consider what you will do in case of loss of information. If information is lost, what you can do about that. Maybe you have backups, maybe you have some other sources of that information, but you need to think about that for a while. What about loss of information systems? The same. What about unavailability of people? Will you be able to provide business operations without personnel? Maybe you need to have some backup contracts with your partners or talent search agencies. What is your plan? What you will do in case you cannot? Your people are unavailable, and the reasons for that might be different. Some organizations might say that equipment is a critical thing, and you need to think about loss of equipment, loss of transportation in some cases. And this is more or less all the scenarios, like 5 or 6 scenarios you can think of, and you need to be ready for those. For known unknowns, what you want to do is you want to list down all of those scenarios, all of those risks and opportunities, and make sure that those risks will never happen, and make sure that opportunities would happen as soon as quickly as possible. And we will talk about risk management in a while, and I will provide you a lot of information how to do that efficiently and how to manage risks properly.